Hey,
Hi,
how you
is
doing?
it Amrit?
Yeah, Sarbjot, nice to meet you.
Same here. Thank you so much for, taking this initiative.
No worries. I love the background you got going there.
Oh yeah,
Unfortunately,
it's
I just got the wall here.
something, to remind us that summer is approaching fast, right? I mean,
Oh,
it's no
definitely.
more no more winter now.
Definitely. So are
Yeah.
you moved out to Toronto? You guys are in Toronto now?
Yes, we're in Toronto. So we were in Calgary for 11 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
What made
And
you make the move out to Toronto?
I actually did my university and everything from Toronto, and then
Wow.
uh, back in those days, like 10, 11 years ago, Calgary's economy was booming with sort of like oil and gas opportunities.
Definitely.
I was lucky enough to find a job, and then, we moved there. And then, so my family was still in Toronto, like my brother, my everyone, So after having kids, we were like, oh, it makes more sense to be close to the family, right?
Definitely.
So we did, yeah, so we moved back. But the reason we decided to move back was like when we were planning our move, right? We were
Yeah.
thinking that, oh, it's because of the family, we'll be closer to the family. But God had something else in his mind, he was planning something way bigger, right? So,
Definitely.
um, yeah, so that was like our reason was for the family. Yeah,
No, for sure. I totally get that. I mean, Toronto's a great
yeah,
city. It's got a lot of things happening, and there's a great
right,
community there.
right. But we
Um,
miss Calgary, so Toronto is more like a concrete jungle. Like Calgary is just so beautiful, right, with the Rockies and everything.
Definitely. I always compare Toronto to New York. Like when someone's asking, especially the difference between like a West Coast city and Toronto. Like Vancouver to
Yeah,
me is more like LA. It's LA and Seattle sort of
like
together. And Calgary is very similar. I mean, the thing I loved about Calgary was just how close knit the community was and how like you're immediately in touch with nature. Like
right.
for Toronto, the difficulty I have every time I go there, like you said, is a concrete jungle. So if you're in like downtown or the city, it's very difficult unless you're kind of closer to the lake to get that
Oh yeah.
nature feel. Well, thanks for reaching out to us.
No, I was actually pretty impressed, Amrit. I'll be really honest. Since we got Nadab's diagnosis, I've been like, yes, I was able to connect to a lot of other ethnicities, right? Like for example, Caucasians, right, or Black. But I'm
Definitely.
like, there is no way Nadab is the only one in North America with SMA type 3. It boggled my mind, right? I'm like, there has to be like other kids or other parents, right? And the reason why, and honestly, like I was a totally the kind of person who would not post pictures of their kids on social media because I
Definitely.
was like, I don't have the time to do it. And I was not the ones who will like look, oh, how many likes we have or how many
No,
followers we have. I
definitely.
was like,
Yeah.
I don't have the energy to spend. But then after Natal's diagnosis, I wanted to reach out to other parents to know how the kids are doing now. Like, how are they when they're like 10 years old or 12 years old? Or someone who I could talk to about the emotions. It's
Definitely.
not an easy diagnosis, to be honest,
Not at all.
right?
Not at all. And I can't begin to imagine what you guys went through as parents. Like, even watching my sister, she has a 5 year old and a 3 year old. And because I'm at this age, like, I kind of understand the complex emotions and stuff. And just watching her develop as a parent
Yeah,
is just amazing to me. The struggles and just adding an additional complication onto things.
right.
I can only imagine how difficult it was. So,
Initially we were like, um, yeah, it took us a while. Like it took us about 1 year to get the diagnosis. We were going from doctors to doctors, right? It's just, and then finally when we got it, and I'll be very honest, I have not questioned why it happened to Nata. I don't question that because I think whatever happens in life happens for a greater reason, right? And who am
definitely.
I to question why it happened? I just, I was surprised that. in how in our community, uh, especially I know like there are a lot of SMA types in India, or people with like Duchenne muscular dystrophy in India, because again they are talking about it, or they're creating awareness because there's no treatment available in countries like India, right?
Yeah.
So they're fundraising, which makes sense. But I was like, how about like in Canada or even in America, right? I'm like, why are people not talking about it, right? When we should be openly talking about these issues. So that kind of made me uh, just, I was like, no, I think I have to document, I have to talk about Natab's journey. Also, I think I had my own hidden agenda too, was that eventually, uh, if like somewhere down the lane when Natab is a grown up, if it gives him a little bit of strength, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? Because it's not an easy world to navigate when you have any kind of disability, right? So when he grows up, if, if he's surrounded by strong people, I'm hoping that ultimately his perspective on so many things that he will encounter, right, when he's grown up, will be he will take it a little bit differently, like be mentally more strong.
Definitely.
I was apart from that perspective as well.
Definitely. No, that's a
Uh,
great mentality to have because I think a lot of the things is like the children are going to learn from their parents first off.
yeah,
So if the parents have that mentality, it it's difficult for the kid to come up with some other mentality, if that makes sense.
right.
I just want to give a little bit of background. The reason
Sure, yeah.
we chose MD Canada as a charity of choice, like this whole thing stems around a friend I had who I grew up with. He had muscular dystrophy,
Okay.
so I've known him for like 18 years of my life, since we were little kids, pretty much, and we've known his family. Like they lived in the same neighborhood and all that stuff. It's just when we were growing up, there was we still had a little bit of a stigma around it because we knew he was a little bit different because he struggled with certain things like walking upstairs and just like some physical things, like he could walk normally and stuff like that, but he couldn't really run or anything like that.
Yeah, same thing like with my dad. He
Exactly. So, but we were kids, and because we knew him since we were kids, we didn't really ask questions. We just knew that he was a little bit different. But it came to the point where he refused to let it stop him from doing anything. Call it stubbornness or call it whatever. He just wouldn't, he didn't want to be treated differently, and he wouldn't let anything stop him. There was anytime he would fall or anything like that, he wouldn't let anyone help him. He wanted to do everything himself, and it was inspiring for us for years and years and years. But we came to the understanding where like he's just a kid like us. He has nothing different. He the only thing is he's got physical challenges, but he doesn't let anything stand in his way. He would do everything. He could still drive a car. He could still, walk upstairs. He was still able to climb things and all that stuff. He wouldn't let it stand in his way. He refused to let it stand in his way. And we wanted to. My cousin actually approached me with an idea to start a business because he's super into coffee, and I told him that the only way we were going to do something was if I could bring in a charity component to it. Because I always want to raise money for MD Canada. I think of it almost like Seva in a way,
yeah,
because it does take a lot of our time and effort and stuff like that. But we're doing it because we know that there's a higher purpose and that this could help
oh,
change
for sure.
lives. And even right now, like earlier this morning, we released a new roast where we're donating $2 to MD Canada, and then we're donating $10 to CASAID just to
Okay,
help with the
that's
farmers.
so good.
Yeah, just to help with the
Okay,
farmers protest. So we found a roaster who would help donate beans to us. So we don't really pay a whole lot for the beans. So it gives us the ability to just charge $15 for the bag and then just donate all the money.
right.
So we're hoping things like that kind of help. But essentially I created it because of him. Like he was huge inspiration to me, and we even got like his number. Like there was a
Um,
group of us. We got his number tattooed. Like he always loved the number 3000 for whatever reason. So we all got it tattooed on our wrists and stuff like that. And he inspires that. Like every day I wake up, I can't avoid looking at this. So I look at it and I'm just reminded. I'm like, okay, so he refused to let anything stop him. Why should we feel any different? Why should anything
no,
come in
I
our
do.
way?
Yeah, I'm just thankful to you guys because I mean, especially it's very, as I mentioned before, right? I was actually looking for someone in that community to uh, talk about it because again, there's so much stigma associated with it,
I
right? Like,
100% agree.
and you know how you were mentioning about your friend that he won't let uh, anything come his way, right? I see that in my son too. Again, I'm not saying that because I'm his mother, right? But these kids have so much, or adults have like so much resilience in them. You know, I see like for example, Meta, he cannot climb the stairs, so he has to hold the railing to climb the stairs
Yeah.
up, or
Yeah.
and sometimes I feel bad when I see him doing that, right? Though I push him a lot because he has to, of course, physiotherapy is an important aspect. Then there are days when I'm like, I can carry you up, Meta, but he's like, no, Mama, no help. He says that,
Yeah.
and then just that just motivates me more. That if he doesn't want help, then why should I? You know what I mean?
No,
But
definitely.
how's your friend doing now?
Um, he actually passed away a couple of years ago, which is unfortunate.
So sorry to hear that. I know muscular dystrophy. When you mention the word the dystrophy to me, I again, like, especially after Metab's diagnosis, we did enough research about, because initially the doctors were suspecting that Metab has MD.
Yeah.
That's what he was initially diagnosed for because the symptoms were so similar. But afterwards, when they did the genetic testing, they confirmed SMA to us, right? But I have a distant relative in the US. He's 19 years old and he has MD, and I hear his struggles, and I know it's the lifespan is limited. Like it impacts an individual's lifespan also with MD. And I mean, you guys are doing a great job, Amrit. That's all I have to say. I mean,
No, I
it's a
appreciate it.
great way to trust me. Like wherever your friend is right now, I'm pretty sure he must be like really proud and happy to see that.
Oh,
Because
definitely.
I can tell you, I know of one Punjabi Sikh guy in UK. His son is like 6 year old or 7 year old. He has MD2, right? And he's creating so much awareness. And we were just chatting with him one day, and he was saying that he says that why doesn't our community come up and talk about it? Because I think right now Pfizer is working on a gene therapy for it, for MD.
Really?
Yeah, that would be. Can you imagine, like,
That
if
would be
they?
amazing. We just wanted to me, this was more of an, similar to you, that's why your story spoke to me so much. And that's why I wanted to sit down and talk with you, is just,
Yeah,
we want to create awareness because
yeah,
anytime people would ask me, like I would tell him that my friend passed away from muscular dystrophy, and their next question is, what is that?
yeah.
So I get that it's a rare disease, and I get all these things are rare diseases, but I think that there should be a little bit more awareness of the possibility of it, and especially in our community for sure. And I think that there is, like, as soon as you reached out to us, I found your Instagram and I just read through all
Yeah.
your posts because it's just so, it was something that I could at least connect to, like on such a deep level. And I wanted to see, like, I get that the South, like our community does, we don't really talk about any ailments or anything like
No, it's
anxiety or
like we are
depression or anything
scared
like that.
that it's like we're scared if we talk about it, we will get it. You know what I mean? Like it's like that.
Do you think it
So
has to come, do you think it comes from, do you think it comes from pride as well? Like, because like I find in our community, the, like your family or your like last name or everything like that, like there's a sense of pride
yeah,
that you
there's
have to
mental
maintain.
pride to it. Yes, it's also that, and also, for example, I think we try to keep these things hidden. It's like Oh, and also, for example, I know not, like I'm open about, like, for example, Metab gets this treatment called Spinraza, right? I
Yeah.
mean, as I had mentioned before, that God was planning something bigger when we were moving back to Toronto, but in Alberta, Spinraza is not funded by government for type 3.
I was,
In
yeah, I
in
was,
Ontario, it is. So, he must be thinking in his mind that you guys are foolish, you guys are planning it for something else, but I have a bigger plan for you guys, right?
definitely.
So that was the thing. And if we were in Alberta, probably we would be probably, I don't know what we would have done, right?
Wow. I
But
was just gonna ask, like, what was the process like for getting funding um, in the provinces? Because I know you mentioned that on your Instagram,
yeah.
and it was interesting to me because I didn't know that that was an issue. I thought it was more of a thing federally, but if it's provincially, like, how did you find the? Was it difficult to find any funding or research or anything like that?
So, for example, the process now is that when Mehtab got his diagnosis,
Yeah.
there is a scale that the government has set up. It's called Hammersmith test, like a physio test, where they score him on each of his activities, like how he stands up, how much is he able to walk and stuff, and then they will give him a score.
Yeah.
So they did a pre-treatment score, and then they fill out the paper. Doctors do that to the government and everything, and then the government assesses it and provides the funding. Luckily, in Ontario, it was only approved, like in 2019 or 2020, that type 3s can also get Spinraza. But I know of a woman in Alberta who's like 35 who has submitted her application thrice, and every time she has got rejected. Imagine, Amrit, you're living with this disease which is taking away of your muscles every day. Imagine, like, you're not able to
Yeah.
brush or even comb your hair. There's a treatment out there. It's not a cure, but at least it stops the progression. You know what I mean? It doesn't. But yeah, it's pretty sad. Like that. That's how it is. But
Wow.
in our
Yeah.
case, so Mehtab has to go through another assessment. I think in August, and then if his scores are down, then the funding stops. Then we have to fight again. Like
Wow.
the doctors will reapply, they will justify, blah blah blah. And see, so here's my take as a parent on that. Like parents you're already dealing with such a big thing, right? Like when I see Matab falling so frequently, not able to climb stairs, it's
Yeah.
already a big thing for us, right, as a parent. Plus, on top of that, you're always worried about the funding because there's only one treatment available, right? I mean, there's no other option. If he
Yeah.
doesn't get that, then it's gonna be worse. He will be on wheelchair probably. We don't know when, right? And I think as a parent, seeing a kid on a wheelchair is pretty like upsetting. You know what I mean? Like
Definitely.
it is. But again, I mean, if it helps him, it helps him, right? Like so that's the thing. I mean, I don't know how his mindset will be, right? But funding is something that parents should not be worried about, especially in a country like Canada where we pay so much higher taxes. And Canada is one of the G7 countries. It's not like we are like India where facilities are not available or
No,
something.
definitely. I thought of it in a similar way to, like, I thought the same thing with COVID. Like, to me, the COVID vaccine, because this shouldn't be something that people, like, I get that people have to profit off it because it's a business and they did all this
Yeah,
research and all that stuff. But to
yeah,
me, this is a worldwide epidemic. This is more
yeah,
to do with humanity than it is to do with profitability, in my opinion.
exactly.
So to me, it should be like, hey, we figured out the answer. Here's the answer. Let's duplicate this answer all over the world and let's fix this.
Right.
But I find it similar to a lot of these sort of scenarios where the answer's out there. We can help people, but it's a matter of companies need to profit off these things. Otherwise, it's not like it doesn't make sense
Exactly.
for them.
No,
And
like
that's a
I
difficult
understand
scenario.
the economics behind it. But I think a lot of the Health Canada policies, our system is so bureaucratic in a lot of ways,
Oh, definitely.
right? Like drugs will be like So like the more I've been reading and digging about all these things, I'm like, like it might seem like, oh, our healthcare is free, we get everything, but again, it's only free for like small ailments like you have blood pressure, you have a headache, or stuff, smaller stuff like that.
Oh,
But
definitely.
when it comes to the actual things, I don't think Canada is up to that level where US is, right?
Mm.
Like drugs will be approved in US, or all the clinical trials, they happen in US, right? And then it goes to Europe. That's where they will approve first. And Canada is like the second, third one where they take so long to study
Yeah,
everything and then approve it. Right?
they're definitely behind on the ball, and that's the same thing. I mean, you can see that replicated with the COVID vaccine. Like, I feel like
Yeah,
we're
same thing. Yes.
very slow on the rollout, where everyone else is already like. I just spoke with my mom yesterday, and she was talking to me about how the UK is already vaccinating at the age 50 level, and
Exactly.
we're still at
Yeah.
80. So it's kind of just like I agree with you. I think Canada's just very slow and they're very methodical, and they want. I don't think they put enough funding into it because our healthcare is universal. So where other countries have privatized healthcare, like the states, for example, they have the money to invest in to studies and let's
Yeah.
make new drugs, let's do research and development, stuff like that. So I think they use the U.S. as a scapegoat for all those different kinds of
For sure.
tests and stuff. But that's interesting. Never
And
thought
also,
of Canada like that.
I I read a very interesting article that of all the clinical trials, South Asians are not selected for clinical trials, right? But why is that? And I think a lot of it has to do with again, the issue where we don't talk about illness, right?
Definitely.
There's a stigma. So that's why we will never advocate for more research, because ultimately more research leads to like funding for all these like drugs, right? And treatment.
Definitely.
So,
And it's going to
and
shed
then
light on what's happening.
exactly, yeah, I think that's the thing where, and yeah, there was an interesting article that Indian genes are the ones that carry most of that defective genes because that's how it gets passed on, right?
Yeah.
And still, like, how much do we talk about it? Like, how much
No, not at all.
we don't talk
I
about
didn't even know until he was getting very sick that his it ran in his family. Like he
it. Yeah, it
had
runs family. Yes.
exactly. His dad had a little bit of muscular dystrophy, like it wasn't as severe, but he had an aunt and a cousin that had it as well, and I didn't know that it could be passed down genetically or something like that. Like there's just a lot of information that wasn't really available to us. And then after when he started getting sick, that's when we started jumping into the research and trying to understand what was happening.
Yeah.
And then like last around this time last year is when I reached out to MD Canada and saying, "Hey, we want to do this. Do we have your support?" And because we were talking about, hey, we want to bring awareness, we want to help out, like we want to be involved in fundraising and all that kind of stuff, they were on board with it because they're like, more people do need to know about this.
Spinal muscular atrophy too, right? It runs in the family. Again, like I was talking to my dad and my in-laws, like they say that no, they again, like it's not necessary that everyone will experience it, right? Like we have no history of SMA, but
Yeah,
it so happened that Saab got it, right? Because
definitely.
both me and my husband are carriers of that defective gene. So we got our daughter tested as well because I was like, I need to know if she's a carrier or not for her own awareness, right? Again, she's
Definitely.
small, she's 6 years old right now, but eventually when she grows up, she has the right to know if she carries that defective and she's a carrier. So imagine how many of us are carriers like that
Without knowing. And it's not something you
without
go
knowing.
to the doctor specifically to get tested for or to
No,
understand because it's kind of out there. Do you find
exactly.
do you find that now that Mathab has had his diagnosis, do you find that your families are more cognizant of like the of talking about it? Like, is it less of a social stigma in your household now? Or
So it's like, yes, my immediate family, like my mom and dad, my brother, we are pretty open-minded. And the day my dad got his diagnosis, I told him that, especially to my parents, because you know how grandparents, they kind of pamper the grandchild.
Yeah, definitely.
I was like, I don't want any special treatment from my dad because I want him to feel that he's special or different in any way because that will be not good for him, right?
No.
So we talk about a lot of issues. I mean, the SMA and all that stuff. But yeah, like far out, like distant relatives and stuff,
Hmm.
I don't know how it would be, like how it is there. I don't know that. I mean, again, I haven't. But what I have noticed is that yes, there are some of my cousins who has reached out to me and they're like, oh, you know, I mean, like they will show their interest in knowing what it is like. But then
Definitely.
there are some who are like, well, who cares? Didn't happen to us, right?
Yeah.
But that's the wrong mentality. I kind of think it is. Again, I tell people that I don't. It's not about generating sympathy. It's just
Awareness.
about awareness. It's about
100%.
knowing,
Yeah.
right? And And to be honest, Amrit, I remember, for example, when previously before getting the TAPS diagnosis, if I would see anyone in a wheelchair or a kid with special needs, right? I always used to think, oh my God, like, what do these parents go through, right? And little did I knew back then that, uh,
Definitely. Well, I can only imagine how much your mentalities change. And I was gonna ask, like, what do you think is something that what's an important thing that you've learned throughout this process? Because the Sarbjot that was before and now is,
yeah,
I imagine your
it's
mentality is
different.
completely different. You seem very positive and you seem very uplifted and stuff. And I just want to know like what you feel is one of the most important things that you've learned throughout this process.
So, like, a little bit of my background, like, I come from a background where I've always seen my mom doing path, right? Like,
Yeah.
I grew up in India actually, right? I came here when I was 16 and we used to live near the Gurdwara. I remember going to the Gurdwara to do seva. So I was brought up with that concept, right? But
Definitely.
sometimes you just do stuff because your parents ask you to do it, right? Especially at that age, right? You don't actually
Oh yeah, I know
think
all about that.
the meaning behind it, right? Oh, there's a bigger uh, reason or the spirituality aspect of it,
Yeah.
right? Like our mom would say, "Oh, let's go to the Gurdwara and do like we would mop the floors and we were like, oh, we don't want to go. Why is she forcing us?" But now all those things I think kind of made me who I am, and I didn't realize those things till I got my TAPS diagnosis. I think it's just again, as I mentioned before, I have not questioned God that why it happened, but I think there's a bigger reason why it happened. There's a bigger purpose to it,
Definitely.
and it's and I have left everything to him. I have my dark days too, where I'm like, I think as humans, I mean, we go through emotions,
Oh,
right?
definitely. And I know that you even mentioned on one of your posts that it's been such a huge roller coaster ride, and I can only
Yeah.
imagine how the ups and downs about it. And I want to even see like there are certain things that obviously bring you hope. And is it your connection to spirituality that is?
Yeah, I think it's more, yeah. I think the biggest reason is that, um, yeah, it's just my faith in God. I think that's the biggest thing. Yeah, I think also looking at Mehtab, he gives me so much, as you mentioned, like your friend, right? He would never ask for help. He would still climb. He would still do things.
Yeah.
So when I see Mehtab, I'm like, he is not. Uh, or maybe I was also thinking one day that maybe he does, like he cannot jump, of course, like because
Yeah.
of the situation, right? He has never jumped. And I was thinking, is it because he never complains about a lot of the things? Because he doesn't know what the experience of those things is, right?
Right.
Or yeah, I wish I could like read his mind. So, but yeah, I think a lot of the strength actually, it comes from just having faith in God. I think that's my
Definitely.
biggest, like again, even for, I think for any individual, my parents can talk to me, my husband can talk to me, people can talk to me, but if it's not coming from within me, myself, I cannot motivate or push myself, right? That's the thing. No matter how much someone tries to talk to me, I think that thing comes from yeah, I think from just being,
It comes from a different place. Honestly, it
comes
comes
from,
from a
it's
different
hard to
place.
describe,
Yeah, I know
Amrit.
what you mean.
I just remember the day when, so I remember like initially the doctors thought that he probably has a brain tumor or something because his eye movements were off as well.
Right.
I remember I was in the hospital, we were in the hospital for 3 days, and I was just praying to Babaji that, um, you know, no matter what you do, like I'm okay even if you put him in wheelchair, but I want him, as long as I'm alive, I
Yeah.
want him here, madam, right? And I have full faith in you. And I've always like, um, I think, yeah, that's just the way I grew up. Probably, it's just faith in him that eventually I think everything will be all right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
It's
definitely.
yes, again, there are days when I get upset, but upset is more about just I don't question God. I don't question, oh, why you did this to him, or
Hmm.
why not to that person. No, no, no. I think that's, if I start questioning that way, then that's I think the biggest mistake I would be doing in my life, because
That would,
things could have gone worse too, right? What if he, like my husband, he always tells me that, what if we were driving, all four of us were driving, and then we there's an accident, things happen, right? I mean, people die,
definitely.
or like you're driving, people get paralysis from, like the whole body gets paralyzed, or something like that. Things have gone that way too. So we are taking it in a very positive way, So,
A
but
child is always a blessing. Like, always going to be a
exactly,
blessing, no matter
yes,
if they're born with some sort of physical disability or mental disability,
right.
anything. Like, a child is to me, anytime a child is born, I think of it as a miracle. Like,
Oh, yeah,
how it's still like, I understand the biology behind it, but it's
yeah,
still amazing that you create this child, but the bond is the true blessing. Like, I
yeah,
can't begin to fathom what it's like, but I've seen dramatic changes in people, even in my own family. Like, I've had friends and family who were one way. They would be like, if they're going partying all night, or if they're just in that kind of headspace, and then as soon as they have a kid, they completely switch, and it's a completely headspace different on this side, because they tell me that it's equally the most amazing and the most terrifying moment when you hold a child, because you're like, this is my child, I'm going to take care of
right.
it now. So things completely change mentality wise, and to me, that is part of the blessing. Like, it I imagine it teaches you so much about yourself, and just about how none of the problems that you thought of before really
Yeah,
matter.
no,
Like,
it
it's
does
just,
not.
you just kind of put your blinders on, and it becomes about you and your family,
Yeah.
rather than anything else. Like, it's just the priority changing is huge.
And like, for example, with your friend's case, right? Like, I mean, see, again, like, just an example, like SMA, right? There's only 25% chance that if both parents are carriers, that your offspring will have SMA. 25% chance is so small. Like, I mean, it's a small percentage, right? Same
Definitely.
thing with MD2. It's not like 100%. If you're a carrier, you will pass on to your offspring. So that's why I think that there's a bigger reason. There has to be a bigger purpose. Yes, probably don't understand it now, but maybe again, I don't know, 10 years or 15 years, who knows, right? I don't know what it will be, but um,
Well, I think what you're doing with the your social media presence, and just trying to reach out and bring awareness, is you're doing something that's bigger than you. Like, this is something that, like, I didn't know that there was a community out there until we started doing something like this.
yeah,
And to me, like, yeah, we're selling great coffee, and we're having fun while doing it, but this to me is the best part of this. We've got to meet so many amazing people that we never would have had the opportunity to meet prior to this. And I think that's part of the thing. Like, we're creating this awareness. And I know that you mentioned even about how you wanted to make sure that people understood acceptance, and how acceptance wasn't
Yes,
showing sympathy. It was more creating an even playing field for everyone, the
yes,
equity and empowerment. And I think that you're doing a great job of that. And as long as you keep that mentality going, and Matab grows around that, I think he will go into his life understanding that he is nothing is going to be able to hold him back. And I think that's what happened in the case of my friend, because he refused to let anything hold him back. And I think that was part of him understanding that his dad was operating his own business and he had muscular dystrophy, and nothing slowed them down. So
right.
I think that I think that having that mentality is huge, and you're bringing awareness, and you're showing people, especially in the South Asian community, that this is possible. This is how our mentality should be. We shouldn't be ableist. We shouldn't be.
No, we should not be. A lot of people have actually come up to me, like the friends or like my mom's friends, that, oh, she should not be talking about it. Especially when
Really?
Mitab gets treatment, right? For example, like he was never able to climb the stairs, but now Mitab can climb 4 stairs. Again, 4 stairs for normal parents is not a big deal, but for us, it's a big deal. That, oh
Huge,
yes, he
yeah.
can climb the 4 stairs, right? So, because again, like how we come from a mentality that, oh, if we talk evil eye too, right? We have all these like hidden superstitions. Though we
Yeah,
have
that's
evolved a lot, but I think we have still not evolved. We call ourselves spiritual. Like, again, don't take me wrong, but I kind of believe that a lot of it also has to do with what's happening in our gurdwara. Like, for example, like when I go to a gurdwara, right? Like, I mean, see, it should be a place where kids like Mehtab or individuals like with any kind of disability should be openly accepted,
definitely.
right? Because that's what, but how do we look at them, right? Like, I mean,
Well,
it, it,
you get a. I imagine. I imagine you in the community, at least you get a lot of like side looks, people looking at you kind of sideways and just like
exactly,
quietly judging or thing like that. But it shouldn't be like that. It should be.
exactly.
Yeah, it's completely
And
backwards.
especially, I think our religion, it's like one of those religions where all our gurus' primary focus was equality, right? Like,
100%. Exactly.
it was the foundation, like, that equality among women, equality among all castes, social levels, everywhere. That was the whole, the fundamental of the concept about it.
Definitely. Do you think it's changed or improved in your lifetime at least? Do you think we're coming closer to an objective? Because I've noticed, like, I grew up, I've grown up in Vancouver my whole life, and I knew a time where, and even my dad, he grew up partially in Vancouver. So there was a time where it was extremely racist here, and that's
Right,
just because people didn't really understand who we were or what we were stood for or what our religion was or anything like that. So like there was bullying and stuff when we were growing up, but there came a point where I went from the only Sikh kid in my class to having a class that had 6 or 7 of us, just because
right.
the community grew over time. So to me, I felt that it's changed very positively over time, at least in racism, because people almost call it awareness in a way, where people are understanding and they're like, oh, he's Sikh, that's just Amrit,
Yeah,
he's
I
out there.
think outside it has, like, right? But internally, we still have a lot of these subdivisions, right? Like Jats, Ramgarhias,
Oh
so and
yeah,
so,
definitely.
so, right? But like again, like for just example, like I belong to a Jat family, right? Which I have never, I don't like talking about it because it's something that's very, I don't think we should. I don't even use my last name, to be
Yeah,
honest. I just put God because that's how I just grew up, right? Because
100%.
that's what I'm talking about. I think there's still a lot of like, yeah, there. So unless we accept our own people internally, that's what I mean. Unless we abolish these things internally within our own community,
Yeah.
then only we'll see a wider acceptance outside too, right? And that's where,
Well,
I mean,
the biggest thing that hurts me every time is the fact that we preach community, but our community is the first to judge our own
exactly.
community.
Yes, yes.
So it's kind of strange because we talk a lot of game, but we don't really play it by the rules that we
We
should.
don't
Like
play by the rules. Yes,
the reason you don't use your last name like that is because as soon as someone hears it, they're gonna put you in that box. They're like, "Oh, she's like
exactly.
this,"
Yes.
but it shouldn't be like
And I
that.
don't want that. Yes,
No,
that's the whole purpose.
yeah, it shouldn't
You
be
know,
like that.
no, it shouldn't be like that. And so, or maybe also because I grew up in India outside Punjab, right?
Yeah.
Where we, again, in my school, there, there were friends of different. I had Muslims friends, I had Hindu friends, right? So it was just different, right? So maybe I guess maybe if I had grown in Punjab, I don't know how my mentality would be. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't grow up listening to Punjabi songs, right? Yes, there are some really good ones, but a lot of the ones where they bring caste or how they show portray women, that bothers me then.
Oh,
I'm
and
like,
it's the same to this day. Like to me, I listen to hip hop very aggressively because I grew around. That's how I grew around that. Like my uncles would
exactly.
show me, my friends would show me different music in hip hop, so I loved hip hop. There are certain things that I understand as a part of the culture. Like they talk a lot about gang life and all that stuff, and I
Yeah,
kind of understand it, but I'm like, I can't relate to that because I'm not in a gang. But there are certain things that they talk about that speak to me, like the struggles and like when they have like love songs and stuff like that. I resonate more towards those things, and I feel like
right.
it's very similar in a way. There's certain marketing, I think that's what they're doing. They're marketing to those kinds of people, and it's a shame because like we got to stop this boxed mentality. Like we need to
Yeah,
stop putting people in categories because everybody's different. Like when you look at me, like people judge me obviously the way I look. They think
yeah.
that I might be ESL. I can't speak.
Yeah, the first thing that comes to the mind is ESL, I know.
Yeah, and it's just a shame. Like I grew up
For
here. I'm
sure.
educated.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's just one of those things, and I'm hoping that slowly we're getting to that point in society where we can jump over those hurdles. And I think that because we're a couple of generations into Canada now, I feel like the next few is gonna be it will improve because like
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
similarly into your situation, I've grown around all different cultures. Like I never saw kids at different playing fields because
Yeah.
we were all in the same class. There's no caste system, there's nothing like that. It's just, hey, this is my friend, he's Muslim. This is my
Yeah.
friend, he's black. This is my friend, he's Chinese. It's the
Right.
same. We're all the same. Even if there's one person who is trying to find research and trying to find other people, they can come across your page and just be like, okay, I'm not the only one that's going through this. Like I think that you
Right.
felt that, and you don't want other people to feel that.
I don't want that, and I'm open to anyone reaching out to me and like asking me stuff. I'm more than happy to tell them that how it happens or what improvements I have seen in Metab or what kind of therapy they should do, right? I'm more than happy to help them. I'm not here. I don't think that I don't believe in evil eye or things like that because I
Yeah,
think when Babaji protects you, nothing can come, like nothing can ever happen to anyone, right? So that's where the mentality I come from. So I'm open to talking about Madam's journey and also our journey. That it's, for example, also a journey for, of my daughter, a sibling, how it impacts you. Because we saw a lot of changes in her, I mean,
definitely.
um, so it impacts everyone as a family, right? So I'm open about it, and
Definitely part of the reason why we want to highlight this story. Like it's so, like your story is amazing. Not only just be like, a lot of it is because you want to bring awareness, and we want to put that spotlight on, saying, hey, there's people out there that are doing this. Like we should be doing this as a community. Like, let's help raise these people up, because if
exactly.
if like, to me, sharing something on Instagram takes 2 seconds,
Yes, it does take two
but
seconds.
it could
Yes,
mean the world to somebody. Because if somebody, let's say somebody shared, if we shared your post, and there's somebody else who was like, this is exactly what I was looking for, that would mean the world to me. That would
yes.
might mean the world to you as well, because we just helped somebody.
No,
So
I agree. It's and also, I mean, Sikhism, the whole foundation is about helping others, right? I mean, I don't think any individual just comes on in this world and just lives their life and goes away. We all have a different purpose, directly or indirectly, to help the community, or to play a part. So again, I'm not doing anything. It's just whatever I kind of thought is the best, you know, so that if anyone is out there who can read my posts, and I have had few people from, say, like Middle East, or people from outside Canada who have contacted me, and they've wondered, okay, what treatment is Mehtab getting? Maybe because his name is not a typical, like, a Sikh name. It's like,
yeah,
so I've had people contacting them, and I talk to them. I'm willing to help them. I've also reached out to few SMA type 3 individuals outside Canada, who are, and I've asked them that, hey guys, how are you doing now? Are you able to walk? Like, how's your life now? And when I see some of them who have like kids, right? Imagine the amount of hope that gives I get
amazing.
as a mother, that, oh yeah, Mehtab will also have a fulfilling life, he will be okay, just hope like that. That's what I want. That's what I want, that other parents, or, even kids, if they can relate it to somehow, yeah, why not?
Well, it shows that you're not alone, or and like, you're not alone, and we're not alone. Like, there's people out there, there's a community out there. We just have to find them. And I'm hoping
Yeah,
that even this interview, is going to help bring awareness to something that we we want to bring attention to. Like, there are
sure.
rare diseases out there. There are people going through things, and that we can help. Like, it starts with the people. It doesn't start with the government or the organizations or anything
No,
like that. It starts with the people.
the government won't do anything till the people actually push it, right? If
100%.
people don't talk about it, nothing's gonna happen. Why will
Exactly.
the government react, right?
Why
Whether
are they going
it's
to waste their time with something that the people aren't caring about?
it's about coffee,
Yeah, a
right?
lot
Like,
of it's about coffee and stuff like that, and we've always wanted to do more, like, things about people and stories and stuff like that, but we've
yes.
never really had people reach out, like you did. So as soon as you reached out, we kind of latched
I was
onto the
actually
idea.
really surprised. I'm like, it's I was like, first of all, I have never seen any uh like any of this coffee being
Do
from a
you
Sikh.
do you drink coffee?
I do drink coffee, and we love traveling. So we have been to Costa Rica, we have been to South America, right? Like,
Amazing, yeah.
so I know how the actual beans, but I've seen how they actually, even with chocolate, or how they roast it, and the coffee there tastes completely different. When I remember when we went to Costa Rica, I bought a lot of beans with us,
Yeah.
because it's just different flavor, right?
Oh, it's amazing. Like,
It's amazing.
depending on the location, the altitude, the proximity to ocean, stuff like that, it can modify the
Yeah.
flavor like crazy.
I was actually pretty impressed. I'm like, oh my God. And then the thing that was more catching was donating it to MD. Like, how rare is that? Because I have never not seen any association with of MD. So there's the Association for Spinal Muscular Atrophy too.
Okay.
Again, it's a local association, and but again, they all fall under MD, right? Because there are
Yeah.
so many neuromuscular diseases, right? And you won't believe, Amrit, there's not a single brown. I'm not even saying fake, not even a single brown um, family associated with that.
Really?
So
I
I'm
think
like,
it's
what's
I think it comes down like we spoke about before. I think it comes down to the stigma. Like
this thing?
Opernit don't want to be put in that spotlight if they don't have to be put in that spotlight
Yeah,
because they're
yeah,
scared they're going to be judged. But that's an old school mentality that we need to shed away and we
change.
need to step into the new thing because we have to, if we keep calling ourselves a community, we have to be a community. We have to help each other. It's like we have to think of the global bend in a way. Like I keep thinking of this mentality. It's a small world, and if we're all part of the same community, let's act like it. Act like if we're gonna keep that mentality that people have in India, where's the bend people help each other in the neighborhood.
They used to help each other. Yeah,
Exactly. So why can't
yeah,
we do that here? We have social
right,
media, we have all these outlets that bring the world even smaller.
together.
Like you're
Yeah,
across Canada, and the way we can speak right now is because of the internet. So
exactly.
it's brought the distance between us to nothing.